Hello and welcome to Console Shock, Retro and Modern Gaming Chat with me, Trev, and as always, Stu. How's it going, Stu? I hope you're absolutely spot on.
Oh, absolutely buzzing, mate, buzzing.
Looking forward to spending £2,000 on the Steam machine?
It's going to be, in it, with the price of RAM.
Yeah.
Do you know what? It's always frustrating. You've got to understand these things. Steam can't control it. Steam can't just subsidise the price of these these machines. And because I'm expecting, lots of people, they sort of come out and say machines should be this price because that's what they should be, and sometimes you wonder, it's like, well, machines have got to be. They have to, try and be profitable and, try and make money back. And obviously lots of people are going to, buy games through the Steam store and things like that. But you see people now are like, oh, well, the Switch 2, well, God, it's £400 but if it was $350, but I would have got one if it was $350, but it's £400. Okay, don't get one, and it always just seems a little bit. I don't know. People are sort of not understanding the big picture, and all these companies, obviously, they want to sell as much RAM as they possibly can. Just to let people know, there's a huge, because of the AI boom. And data centers going off all over the world and so on, and there's a huge demand on RAM, and basically the RAM market, for consumer devices, so PCs, consoles, that's really a commodity product. And when I say commodity product, it's people are very aware of the pricing of it, but all these RAM manufacturers have realized, well, actually we can make proper or big profit by selling memory for the data centers and or special type of memory for the data centers. So they're putting all their eggs into that basket, and that's leading to huge sort of problems within the consumer market. So lots of people are, I follow PC gaming or builders on Reddit and stuff, and they're showing pictures of, this RAM used to cost $99, now it's $420. And
yeah, exactly.
The person actually I brought my computer off said, he put an announcement on his Facebook page. So, right, guys, right, don't order anything on the website because the RAM's going up. I'm not honouring any of these pre-built prices, because if he did, he'll be he'll have to, all the materials he'll buy in would cost more than what he would sell it for. And you're thinking, oh God, this is terrible. Just before Christmas, that's not great, because these AI things, these data centers or whatever, these AI models need all this RAM, and and that comes on to. I watched a video a couple of weeks ago, and Linus Tech Tips did a sort of really good video of actually go, well, based on the Steam machine, and go, well, how much will it be? And then they said, okay, well, the motherboard will be like this. This will be, $50. The RAM will be that. It'll be $100. It's based on this type of processor. You buy one of those and then, put it into a case, blah, blah, blah. It'll be $699. That's what they came out with. And I sort of sat there and I thought, well, that's a fair price. That's okay. But now with this whole RAM issue, it's, I think it's going to be a lot more. And they're almost like Valve are, well, they're thinking, well, hold on, if I actually release the price, what's going to be, I don't want to release the price, because the RAM could go up from, £400 to £600, and then, but then they've set their, their stall on the Steam machine's going to be, $799. And what do you do? How do you? And in all reality, the Steam machine is not going to sell as many as the the PS5 or the Switch 2 will have sold. So I don't think it's going to be in that realm of sales. So then you can't, try and get a really good price and, try and future-proof it and so on. So it's going to be, I think, a bit of a... It might come out at a slightly sort of shocking price. And, I mean, Trev, what would be your... I know you're down to get one, and I've wish-listed it. So hopefully when it comes available, I'll see it. But I think you're definitely going to get one. But what would be your... I'm not paying that for it. What would be your sort of figure where you'll, cancel your pre-order?
Well, to be honest, I was quite excited about the announcement, but obviously there was the two things that a lot of people had concerns about. One was the 8 gigabytes of VRAM. And obviously the other thing is the price, because it wasn't announced, and a lot of people have been speculating what it might be. And I think it's going to be interesting, because a lot of people are saying, well, the price shouldn't matter that much because it's not trying to compete with the PS5. But yeah, it's not, but it also is at the same time. It's in a weird middle ground where it's kind of being, it's kind of closer to a console than it is to a PC. Just because of the sort of, it's an all-in-one unit. It's mostly going to be used with a controller. It's kind of main usage is supposed to be with a controller. Obviously, you can just plug a keyboard and a mouse in and use it like a PC, but that's kind of how it's been marketed, as being something that you plug into your TV and you sit on your sofa and you play with a controller. So whether they want to admit it or not, it is going to be going in on that territory of a games console. It's just a games console that plays PC games. So with that perception, and if they want to really, make as many people buy this as possible, they're not going to be trying to get gamers, PC gamers, exclusive PC gamers to buy this. They're not going to be interested in this, really. They're going to be like, well, I'll build my own. I'll put a GTX 5090 Ti or whatever, Super or whatever in there. They're going to be aiming for that. They're not going to be interested in this. I mean, power-wise, it's basically in between an Xbox Series S and a PS5, which isn't a terrible thing necessarily. It would be interesting to see how much of a jump, when we get to that PS6 does get released and that then becomes the baseline. It'd be interesting to see how much of a gulf there will be at that point, or if we just we always talk about cross-gen now being much longer. So, the previous generation doesn't really get cut off. Not for many years. I mean, now we kind of are seeing that the PS4 games aren't really happening. Certainly not big AAA games.
No.
So we've probably reached the end of the PS4 at this point, apart from sports games and things like that that are going to come out, until the bitter end. But to be honest, a console that even might be behind the upcoming generation, it could still kind of keep pace for many years. But yeah, because it's at that, it's kind of a sub PS5, really. It's almost like a PS5S, almost. I mean, really, do you think that should cost more than a PS5? There are economics, and we're just kind of shrugging our shoulders. But if you really want it to be successful, and
it's difficult because I mean, I was looking like last week when it was Black Friday, and there was some brilliant sales on PlayStation 5s. Like £300, I think they were, or £350 with
they're very cheap. Yeah,
FC25 or FC26, sorry. And I was looking at that and thinking, that'd be a good deal. And shall I get one? And I think no, it'll just sit under the TV and blah blah blah. I'm happy with what I've got.
I suppose it sits under the TV.
Well, exactly, but it'll click dust. That's what I was implying. And then if you think, well, actually, that's $350, and then the Steam machine comes out, and that's in pounds $599, $699, and it's not as powerful as that machine. So then you've got to be going, well, actually, Steam's got. The value proposition would be, well, I've already got 1,000,001 Steam games already. Actually, I can play that in my living room. All those games I've got, Steam games tend to be slightly cheaper than PlayStation 5 Xbox Series X games. So there's your sort of value proposition, but I think there's going to be a real sticker shock when it comes out, and they're going to have to be, hold on, RAM just costs the earth at the moment. It's this is what it is, and I hope they do sort of think, well, actually, if they look at their average customer and say, well, each customer will buy £100 worth of games a year, 30% of that is £30, whatever. So then sort of factor that into the cost, and hopefully 1 in 10 players will get addicted to Counter-Strike skins, get addicted to gambling them and things like that, and then that will pay for a few more. So from that point of view, is they could, in essence, not substitute, sort of not, what's the word? Subsidize the price of it, because they know quite a lot of people will be addicted to points on this or points on that, and they'll want to go down that route. But then, not everyone's going to do that, and I think it'll just be interesting to see once they announce the price. But it seems unusual, because if you think about every other console that's come out, they come out and the price is here you go, that's the price.
Well, I think what's happened here is they had a price in mind that it might end up being. They didn't want to say it because they kind of want to test the water and see if they drop little hints of what it could be, or other people speculate what it could be. They can get an idea of what the temperature is around certain prices, and then they could maybe, we're going to have to eat some of the cost on this to make it a bit cheaper. Or if it turned out people didn't care, they'll be like, okay, cool, we can just chuck it out there and don't need to subsidise it. People are happy to pay it. So I think that was kind of on purpose. That they didn't do that. But I think there's different levels of success they can expect depending on what price it's going to be. Let's say it was priced at maybe just under a PS5. I think that would mean it would be a success, and probably the baseline level of success they would like would be what would be the Steam Deck, sort of 8, 9, 10, 11 million, whatever that's sold so far. Pretty good for a niche bit of PC gaming hardware. They'd be quite happy with that, I think. If it's more expensive than a PS5, you're going to be a bit limited. I think you'll still do okay. If it's sort of 500, 600, but it's not going to be like a big runaway success like the Steam Deck. Anything like pushing towards PS5 Pro, and I think it'll be dead. I don't think people, because the big advantage of you can't buy it and then say, okay, well I've spent the money now, but then in a year I can buy a better graphics card and bring it up to the level of a PS6. You can't do that. You can upgrade the RAM and the storage, but you can't change the graphics. Whereas if you went and built one yourself, and it might cost a tiny bit more, or it could be a fair bit more for a similar spec. At least a year down the line, you can chuck in way more RAM, the bigger hard drive, even the CPU and like the GPU. You can change all of that. You can't do that with a Steam machine.
I think this is almost like a proof of concept. So this is, how will people react to a Steam operating system? And so they could go down the route of going, well, let's just release this. And then, lots of other people will come and I'm going to make a Steam machine compatible machine, whatever. And then they'll put the Steam OS on there. And, this one might be, and I think we talked about this before, that you'll come out there and you might put, I don't really know the AMD top graphics, 9X00XTX or whatever. You might stick one of them in there and actually like, oh yeah, this might be a £1,500 Steam machine. But the whole point is it's people are like sold on, the Steam concept. They don't want all the gumph of Windows and things like that. And then people might come out the other way and go, well, actually, I'm going to do a Steam machine for £400. And it's going to be, people to play, Minecraft, Fortnite, Counter-Strike, lots of indie games things like that on. So then this is really just like let's just make a market, and then let's just see what everyone else does. And that's sort of what they did with the Steam Deck, and created that's a new. It's a PC, but it's a console, but it's got Steam. Oh, but you can put other things on it as well. Oh, but you can do this, but you can do that, and I think that's sort of quite an exciting concept. So I don't think they're not going to say, okay, well, in 5 years' time, this must sold 70 million copies or 70 million units, and then it's success. It might be our target of success is creating a whole new genre of PCs or PC console hybrid. That's our aim.
Yeah.
And if you think about that, then you might go, well, actually, they could make, how many PC gamers are there? Probably over a billion, 500 million, something like that. So if they actually go, well, we want every one of these new hybrids to have Steam OS on there, and they're all going to buy games from us. Here's a template of what you need to do. We're doing one. You go and do it yourselves.
Yeah, I think that'll be the hope, that it would spark that. I mean, we've seen that with the Steam Deck, it's created an entire industry really of handheld PCs now. Not necessarily ones with Steam OS on. There's only really the Legion Go. Is it the Legion Go S that you can buy with Steam OS? Like officially buy it with Steam OS. Obviously, people could just buy a ROG and just stick Steam OS on it. But in terms of people actually taking Steam OS themselves and putting it onto their device, we've only really seen the Lenovo do that. So it's actually a little bit disappointing in that sense. So I'll be hoping more manufacturers would do it. Maybe that still might happen, and it might explode onto more devices. But the uptake has been very slow with that. And now we've got, maybe with the Steam machine, maybe it'll do better. Now there'll be more incentive for manufacturers to use it, and we'll see a bigger uptake of third-party official Steam OS devices, which I would love to see, because really, to have a device, a Steam OS official Steam OS desktop device, you wouldn't really need that much to sort of be an improvement over the Steam machine. I mean, the only thing you're really missing with a Steam machine, I'm not sure how hard that would be to replicate if you just went and built something yourself and bunged Steam OS on it. Things like waking the machine up from the Steam controller. I don't know how easy it is to do that. If you built a computer yourself, you probably can't really. That might have specific protocols that are in, or the dongle that I think that you need to use the Steam controller on other devices is built into the Steam machine. So you don't have to have any extra stuff hanging out for the computer to do that. And it's got obviously the little coloured bar on it that tells you when things are being downloaded, and little quality of life.
That's all just little little knickknacks and sort of nice to have that's unique to that machine. And
there might not be a deal breaker for most people. Things like waking from, like resuming from sleep, bang where you left your game. That works with anything that you have Steam OS on. When I Bazite on my Legion Go, it worked on that. I'd play a game, hit the power button, it would go into sleep mode, come back to it the next day, hit the power button, bang, I'll be back there. That wasn't anything that would only work if it was on the Steam Deck. So that's probably one of my favourite things that Steam OS does, is that instant on sort of thing that you has been on handhelds since the PSP and Game Boy Advance. And it's great to have that on the Steam Deck, and also great to have it on a home desktop console / PC. But to be honest, it'll be this time. Well, I guess probably the summer next year when maybe it's actually out. I'm not 100% sure I'll pull the trigger on it. I mean, it really depends on the price. If it's about £600, then potentially I'll pull the trigger. But to be honest, I don't think the 2 terabyte one, or the base one, might be £600. with the sort of fairly paltry 500 gig of hard drive, which will just get swallowed up pretty quick. 2 terabyte, you're going to be looking at probably closer to 800. I'm not really sure I want to spend that. I think I would probably, I would rather build, a Steam OS. You won't be able to get something as small as that, but you can get, mini ITX systems that would have graphics cards that I can change. I could put more storage in, stick Steam OS on it. Hopefully it would work fairly well, as long as I use AMD graphics. And I'd rather spend £800 on that, knowing that then, a year later I can get a better graphics card and slot it straight in. Whereas in the Steam machine, I'm stuck with that spec. And it seems that Valve aren't super crazy about constantly updating their devices. We thought that might happen with the Steam machine. It'd be like mobile phones. There'll be a new one every year, every couple of years. We haven't really seen that. You got the OLED a couple of years down or a year and a half down the line, but it's kind of the same tech, really. A slightly even better APU as the original, but nothing dramatic at all. It's still the same architecture. And the Steam Deck is 2021. I think it was announced, wasn't it? It wasn't available till 2022 widely, but that's going to be hitting, 4, 5, 6 years old now. And we're not really seeing, any noises of a sequel. And that might be the same with the Steam machine. That'll be the Steam machine for the next 3, 4, 5 years. And when you get to 4 or 5 years, that's going to be, the PS6 will be well established at that point. You're not going to be you're going to be running those sort of latest current gen only games, if there are any at that point. PS6 exclusives, that you're going to be running them on low settings, 720p. Maybe on the Steam machine to get, you might be able to get 60 frames a second. But on the other hand, like you said, maybe by that point in time, 4, 5, 6 years down the line, there'll be other manufacturers that would have taken Steam OS and they'll be selling their own Steam machines. That's what should happen. If you want the really nice streamlined Valve device, like the Apple of the Steam machines, maybe you'll get the Steam machine. But if you're not bothered about that, you don't mind it looking in a big clunky box that's probably quite big and might not fit elegantly into your TV. You could just go to Asus, they'll bung Steam OS on it for you, but you'll get a nice big graphics card. It'll be just as good as a PS6, probably better. Might cost a couple £100 more, but you're paying a couple £100 for more power, ability to upgrade, stuff like that. So, it's going to be interesting, but I'm expecting bad news.
I think they're prepping everyone for that. But before we go on to our main topic, I picked up Metroid Prime 4 for the Switch 2, and I'm really enjoying it. It's I've never really played the Metroid Prime games before, and I thought to myself, it's a first-person shooter. Well, yeah, you're in first-person shooting, and it is a first-person shooter. But
I've heard
not.
that Metroid. I've heard that Metroid is.
I know what you're going to say.
It's a Metroidvania.
Yes, it's a Metroidvania.
I don't know how I made that connection. I've made that connection. I don't know how, but I think it's a Metroidvania.
I thought you were going to say that Samus is a woman. That's what I thought you were going to say. Is she? I didn't know that.
Get that quiet.
Yeah, but it's really good. But it's a more. It's like, it sort of feels like an old Zelda game in space. You have lots of puzzles to try and do and get through here to get over there and work this out and things like that. So from that point of view,
I've never been a fan of the Metroid series. It's going to be controversial. I'm not a big Metroidvania fan. The one that I have played extensively and I really enjoyed was Castlevania Symphony of the Night. I already love Castlevania, so it's probably, it was easy for me to get into it. That's obviously a Metroidvania. You're back and forthing. You're in a big castle. It's not a linear game, but it was very enjoyable. But Metroid, I remember having Metroid 2 on the Game Boy back in the day when I was a kid. And I just couldn't make head nor tail of it. I didn't get. I mean, I was probably the wrong. You know, you needed a guide really for it, especially when you're a young kid. You might not understand that. You know, there are some platformers that actually aren't just a left to right, and that's all you need to do.
Character goes right.
Exactly. Yeah,
that's it.
I was used to Sonic and Mario.
I can't understand any other concept.
Exactly. I still can't. But I didn't enjoy it much, you know. Though you could just go on the internet in those days and look at a guide to get past a bit. So you literally were stuck with trying to figure out the game yourself. And if your brain isn't wired for those sort of games, it was not enjoyable. So I never really got into it. Never didn't have a Super Nintendo in its heyday. I was a Mega Drive person. So Super Metroid obviously passed me by. I didn't really know anybody that, you know what, I didn't know anybody that played those games. And that's including the original NES game. The people that I hung out with that played games with, we didn't really play RPGs or Metroidvanias, roguelikes. I mean, in those days it was all about arcade. It was about arcade stuff, you know, Contras and Super Mario and Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat and, you know, racing games and beat 'em ups and. No one was, let's come round and we'll spend 6 hours playing Final Fantasy. You know, no one did that. Or not just the people that I knew, I guess. You know, were oddballs and weren't into any of that stuff. But so Metroid never appealed to me. I tried a bit of Metroid Prime on the GameCube. Again, found it very, very slow. Again, like I think you're right. So you kind of see it as a first-person shooter, but it's nothing like it, really.
Because I thought I remember when Metroid Prime originally came out, and I couldn't get the hang of the controls, if I remember correctly, and I thought, this is Nintendo's answer to Halo. No, it's not. It's a completely different type of game, and my only sort of complaints are that it is a bit like. You're constantly working out puzzles and you get new skills and it's like, you have to do this. And sometimes things are get a little bit sort of, hold on, I have to press this button and that pops out and then you could throw it at that. Oh, right, okay. So you can't play it. It's one of those games, I think, you can't play it for a week, not play it for a month and then come back and just think you'll carry on because you'll forget all the buttons and the little skills. Yeah. So there's a little bit of that. But other than that, I'm enjoying it, and I'll put it on later, and I'll do another hour or so of it, and really enjoying it.
Yeah, I think that was the thing when I played like Metroid Prime. It was like you go into a room. Might be there's a couple of bad guys or monsters. You have to shoot them, then you shoot them, and I've got to go up and scan them or something, and that'll give me a clue to do the next thing. And I've got to go and check the wall that's further down the corridor because there's stuff on the wall, and I've got to scan each individual nugget on the wall, and that tells me I've got to go and get the MacGuffin from room 9B on level 12. So I go all the way up there, get the MacGuffin, come back to level 1.
Games with lots of scanning is fun. That's fun. That's fun. Like, games should have more scanning.
Yeah, and then maybe you'll pick up the MacGuffin, and then Samus will look at it, and then there'll be a big bunch of text that comes like, this reminds me of when Professor so and so gave me the thing. This takes me back to my training as a cadet back in, and you have to read like 6 paragraphs. Then you go back to room B. So I mean, I know I'm exaggerating. Sorry to all those people out there that love the Metroid games, but it's a bit stop and start. And you know what? They probably could easily make an action-orientated version of those games. Maybe there is one that I don't know about, where it is just kind of a run and gun type deal. Maybe they should do that as a spin-off. Maybe there was a mission where Samus just had to sort of run around for shooting crap and didn't have to scan anything. Because trying to fight for her life. She's based on Ellen Ripley from the Alien films. Ripley didn't stand around scanning things, and I guess sometimes to see where the aliens were, but that was it.
But imagine if you watch Alien 3 and then Miss Ripley carried on walking around and had to keep on scanning stuff.
To be fair, you've got Alien Isolation.
To get clues about where the aliens were. That would have been a better film.
Yeah. To be honest, with Alien Isolation, there is a lot of fetch questing in that. But it's obviously it leans way more on the action and the horror. You know, the mission will be like, oh, go and press this switch and come back down and press this button, and then the thing will happen. Yeah, so you have to do that. But there's also, it's got a very good map. You know, if a game hasn't got a very good map, then I'm useless. Things like Dead Space, where you literally you fire a light beam onto the floor, and it literally is like a GPS that tells you where to go next. That's perfect, you know. And in Alien Isolation, you had an arrow that you could follow that would tell you where to go next.
On Game Pass, there's a game called Routine.
That sounds terrible by that name, but I don't know.
There's a game called
Going to Work.
There's a game called Waiting for a Bus.
Yeah, exactly.
In the cold.
Dry Simulator Pro.
Yeah. Routine is a first-person sci-fi horror set on an abandoned lunar base designed around an 80s vision of the future.
Oh yes, no, I have heard of this. Yeah,
I thought I saw that, and I thought that's up Trevor's street. That is. I'll tell him about that.
Is it actually out, or is it coming out?
It's out. I've downloaded it on Game Pass.
Yeah, it's like sort of VHS looking kind of blurriness, isn't there? And it very much looks like Alien Isolation.
Played it yet. I haven't played it, and I might not play it for a little while yet. But it's
that did. When I saw a trailer to it, I thought, that looks really cool. I mean, now we know we've actually got Alien Isolation 2. It is actually coming. In like a couple of years, I think they've announced it. But that is something I'm looking forward to. And I'm nearly at the end of Dead Space Remake, actually, literally in the last sort of couple of chapters of that. But anyway, it's good that you mentioned the Xbox, because we do need to celebrate a birthday. We're a little bit late to the party by a couple of weeks or so. But it's the 20th anniversary of the Xbox 360, the launch of the Xbox 360. And we're not going to deep dive into specific games or anything like that. We kind of want to describe our general experiences with it. We have done an Xbox 360 episode a few years ago now, where we focused on the console really in depth. So feel free to jump back. Here we're just going to sort of celebrate its legacy and where it started, where it ended up, perhaps what came before and what came after it. But I mean, in terms of myself, I have a bit of an odd relationship with it. I do remember before it got, obviously when it came out, there was announcements about the games. I do remember seeing some of those demos, and I think the one that impressed me the most was it Fight Night Round 3? Because it showed the incredible animation of when someone was getting punched. It would sort of zoom in, and it would show you their sort of face muscles and skin rippling and saliva and blood coming out. And that was the real time graphics. That wasn't some kind of intro movie that you might get with those games. And I was like, wow, it's like the stuff that you would see in the cool CG animated movies that games might start with. That's going to be the real time graphics. And even when they showed screenshots of FIFA 06, which kind of ended up being a bit crap, the Xbox 360 version, there was creases in their shirts and ripples in them that would move and stuff like that. Just sort of a painted on static blocky texture, which we were used to with previous games. And they you almost had blades of grass that you could actually discern, and all that stuff was actually really cool. But personally, I got a 360. This is about 2006, probably late 2006, potentially. I wasn't that interested in picking one up when it came out, but I picked one up. I picked up an Xbox 360 Core from GameStation. This is about the time when they were starting to filter into the second-hand shops, and you could pick up a second-hand one. And I did that, and I think it red ringed on me after a couple of days.
Oh man!
I got another one, and I think that lasted for a few weeks, and then that red ringed on me. The only game I was really playing at the time was the FIFA 2006 World Cup game. I was playing that a lot.
Oh, that's the problem, Trev. You're pushing it to the limit.
Yeah, exactly.
You really
went to the limit. And I was like, bloody hell. So I took it back to GameStation, got a refund, and I was like, I can't be asked. There's no point in me getting another one because it's just going to keep failing. I don't think I had the money to buy a brand new one, although I guess, as we know, eventually a new one would fail. So just would have taken a bit longer. And that's when I actually was like, screw this. I'm going to get a PS3 when it comes out. I know people say, "Oh, they were unreliable as well." They weren't not to the degree that the 360 was. And yeah, I think it's about a year later, a few months after the PS3 came out. So I think it was October 2007. I got myself a PS3, and I stayed PS3 until I think I got a sudden craving to get an Xbox 360, kind of more for the collection, really. And this wasn't long before. This is after they'd announced the Xbox One and the PS4.
Oh, really?
I was like, I'll grab a 360 now because they're going to be cheap. And actually, my girlfriend got me one for my birthday. This is in 2013, so it was the very end of it being kind of, the main system. Obviously, there were games would still come out for quite a few years after this. But yeah, it was great actually because I got the Xbox 360. The games were already at that level where they were £2 or £3 for some of the famous games in CEX. I went berserk buying dozens of games. And you know what? For the next, I mostly became a PC gamer in the next sort of couple of years. But when it came to consoles, I was constantly playing the Xbox 360. Actually, I ended up playing the PS3 that I already had a lot less. Third-party games that were, we knew would tend to run better on the 360. So I'd get, pick up those versions that I didn't already have. And I played an absolute ton of games. And that was when Games with Gold was still a thing, where you'd get 2 Xbox 360 games every month with your Xbox Live subscription. So I was building up a big collection of digital games on that. And some of the sales on the marketplace were pretty good. There was, you get the first Assassin's Creed for a couple of quid or something like that on the digital versions. I've still got about 200 digital games on my Xbox. The one I've got at the moment, I sort of went through a couple of models. The one that I've had for the longest time now is I've got a blue Xbox 360e. The slightly odd-looking square Xbox 3, the last one that looks a bit like an Xbox One. Has a few less ports, but it's super reliable. I haven't had any issues with it. And I've got a hard drive connected to it that has like 200 odd games out of ones that I've bought off Marketplace and ones that came with Games with Gold. I kind of need to get them off this hard drive because I'm really worried that this hard drive is going to die. And I want to get a USB stick because you can install the games to a USB stick and that'll be a lot more reliable. And you kind of just put it in the slot of one of the USB slots, especially these super small USB sticks you can get, and you could probably have it hidden away and you wouldn't even know it was there. Get myself like a 1 terabyte, and that'll probably hold all the games that I've got on that hard drive. So that's actually a little project that I'm planning on doing with my 360. So I still dig it out and play it to this day. And it's probably my top 5 consoles of all time. I would say certainly the best Xbox that was ever released. Stu, what are your thoughts on the 360?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it sort of coincided with the opening of my shop down in Ashford, Chips computer game shop.
DK Oldies, yeah.
DK Oldies, yeah. And it was, I think we got quite a few of those in, and we did get a few sort of bought back, and after a month or two, I did go out of the way and sort of get one, and again, mine failed. It wasn't like the next day. It was a few months later. I got the error came up, and then I think I got 1 red light. I didn't get 3. I got 1. So whatever that meant. So I got that. But what I really liked about it was it was just games on the PS2, obviously the previous generation, you played them through an AV cable or a SCART cable, and this was like the first time, if you got a big TV, HD TV, played it through a HDMI cable, everything just looked clear. It just looked, nice, and it's like, oh yeah, this is the way that games should be played, and
the amount of connections you could hook it up to as well, like
VGA,
composite component,
exactly. I mean, the original one didn't even have HDMI, so it wasn't a while. But I mean,
the Elite, I think, wasn't it, in 2007 when the Elite came out? And that was when he had a HDMI connection,
Exactly, and I love playing sort of Game Pass, Xbox Gold, and playing online with things like Call of Duty 4. That was just an absolute awesome game, and everyone seemed to have a headset, and you go on there and chat away to people, and it just felt like a really good sort of ecosystem. And I remember, I mean, you sort of touched upon it, but it was, having a video game shop. It was, we would always get in, let's say we got in 10 games of version, 10 copies of the game for the Xbox 360, and we'll probably get 5 games for the PlayStation 3, because that would always sell less, because that was always so much more expensive. To me, I had a PS3 as well, mainly for the exclusives, but you put the games in and they'd taken hours to install, download, and do some more installing, and that always absolutely drove me nuts. Whereas the games on the Xbox 360, this is probably not always the case, but they all just seem to load sort of straight away. And
you could choose to install them, but I don't think that came into about 3 or 4 years into the life of it.
That was much later.
I'm not entirely sure if it actually made the games load faster as well. I think I installed a few games, but it was kind of pointless, really, unless the game required it. We did get into that point, didn't we, where a game would need to be installed, like, Wolfenstein New Order and DLC for games. And
I think Grand Theft Auto needed to be installed. Grand Theft Auto
5 certainly did, yeah, absolutely.
And you didn't mind then, because it was you were getting an amazing game. But what I always sort of felt like, if I wanted to quickly have a go on a new game for the PlayStation 3, and everyone's probably going, oh yeah, this is what everyone has to do now. But then it was, hold on, I've got to download a 2 gig patch. That took a good while. Then you have to install the game, and then by the time all that's done, well, I don't know, you're off to bed. You're just like, well, I want to do. I've lost the will to live now. I wanted to play it 2 hours ago.
Thank God we didn't go down that route, Stu. Thank God we didn't go down the route. Well,
we've gone down that route, and I suppose I got used to it now. But anyway,
it was the end of that era, really, wasn't it? It was like the final generation where you could just bung the disc in and bang, the game runs. Obviously, eventually there were games you might have to install, but that wasn't common. That was unusual. No. Most of the time, you could just stick the disc in and you'd be playing a game within minutes, seconds.
Yeah. Exactly. So I was a big fan of the Xbox 360. I thought it was a smashing machine. I like the controllers. And he brought out some good accessories, some bad ones. The good ones being the steering wheel controller. That was really good.
That was
like the Guitar Hero.
The wireless steering controller, wasn't it? That like a
boomerang thing.
One. Yeah. It was.
I didn't actually like that. I like the one that sort of sat on your lap.
Right. Yeah.
Where you had the pedals. That was good. And I was never a fan of the Kinect, obviously. That wasn't for me. Games should be controlled with a mouse, keyboard, or a controller. Nothing else.
Yeah, potentially was the start of the end. I think the Kinect, they really went way overboard with it. Sony had like the right approach. They obviously, everybody got a little bit excited when the Wii came out, saying we need to jump on and make a motion control thing, otherwise we're going to be left behind. So Sony kind of just dipped their toe in it and said, well, here's some cool motion control stuff. We'll chuck a few games out that will use it, but it will just be an accessory that is sort of supported, like the iToy. We're not going to make this our entire identity for the next 5 years of the PlayStation brand. Whereas Microsoft, it was cool tech. It was absolutely cool technology, but then they decided to, bundle it in with the Xbox One, so they added a whole bunch of cost onto that. They really went, dedicated Rare to develop for it and do nothing else. And they really just put all of their eggs in the Kinect basket, and it backfired, really. And it was a big part of the reason, I think, the Xbox One was hamstrung from the beginning. So, if they just had it on the 360 and kind of left it at that, maybe things would have been a bit different. There's some worthwhile stuff on it, dance games, love and exercise stuff. But
exactly. People liked it, but it shouldn't have been sort of shoved down your throat. And
Exactly, yeah.
And it should have been something, you want to go and buy. Actually, I want to play those motion games. That's it. Some people love motion games. For me, it's more than a 2-minute novelty, just a little bit of a novelty. It was, oh yeah, this is quite good fun. Okay, right, now I want to play a proper game. And it was. I think it was. I don't want to say that the Kinect was a misstep, but the way that they marketed it and shoved it down your throat, that was the misstep. And actually, if things like the iToy and things like what was it? They had that the PlayStation Eye on the PS4. They're all really cool things. And some people wanted to go and buy those things and play those types of games, and that was like actually sort of what got them really excited. It's the same like the Buzz quiz things, the microphones for singing into, and
it's almost like Microsoft thought, well, eventually everything is going to be Kinect. People aren't going to use controllers anymore.
But then,
so we need to go all on it. That's kind of what their attitude was, I think. Yeah.
I can't imagine the meetings they must have sat in and gone. All these times, people are using controllers, and are they doing like customer research and they're getting feedback from people? Darren, who plays FIFA for 4 hours a day and then plays Call of Duty, is he feeding back that the problem is he would enjoy his Xbox more if he didn't have to use a controller? Was that the feedback they were getting?
Yeah,
I don't. Who was giving them this feedback? That's what people wanted.
And I think from that post kind of 2010 era of 360, I mean, all those games like FIFA and Skyrim and things like that would have like better with Kinect written on it. I'm not entirely sure what you used Kinect for in those games. Like, do you yell shoot and pass at the screen? And
do you remember?
I don't really know.
What's that game? Oh, not Bionic Commando. I downloaded it and I bought this last week. I'm going to look on my Steam library, and I've already deleted it. Hold on.
Well, you've got a really
Binary Domain.
Oh yeah.
And I downloaded that for £2 on Steam, and I thought, it's a little bit like Gears of War. I like Gears of War. It's £2. I'll play it. And then you have to shout controls at your microphone on your PC.
That's ridiculous,
and it doesn't fucking register. And I'm going, run. And I say it about 5 times before this fucking stupid character understands what I'm saying.
It's like that episode of The Angry Video Game Nerd when he's using all this crazy NES accessories, and one is the microphone, and it's compatible with Top Gun, and you could just have to yell fire, 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 and you're just yelling this. It's
not fun. It's not fun. You want to press a trigger. That's what you want to press.
Yeah.
Or the left button on a mouse. That's what you 100% want to press. You don't want to press anything else. And you don't want to be shouting things. You don't want to be waving at the screen, or whoever comes up with this rubbish.
100%. Yeah, well, I mean, it had that. Obviously, the Kinect was a form of controller, and maligned, and it was, also great at the same time. But it had actually one of the best controllers ever made, and still one of the best controllers ever made was just the regular Xbox 360 controller. I still think it's a great controller now. The D-pad obviously isn't great. If you get the special edition controllers like the Chrome series that have the flippy D-pad that you could switch it to a disc or flip it back to a cross, those D-pads were brilliant. They're some of the best D-pads on any controller. Weirdly, they didn't make that the kind of the default from that point on. You had to get those special edition controllers. But yeah, the controller felt great in your hands. They thankfully went to the usual layout of, L1 and R1 and R2 and L2 instead of having the black and white buttons on the original Xbox. Just a brilliant controller that is still really good to this day. I still use Xbox 360 controllers on. It was became a kind of standard PC controller, and was a big reason as to why controllers became much more common on PC in that Xbox 360 era, because they could actually start to rely on people having that standard Xbox controller. And to this day, they're still pretty good on PC. I think the DualSense has finally kind of taken the crown away from Xbox in terms of controllers. But weirdly, I think the DualSense is more like an Xbox 360 controller in the shape and how it sort of sits in your hand. So it's kind of really, it took its cues from that versus the DualShock 1 and 2 and 3 of old.
They were awful.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Exactly. You played them, and they were good at the time until you got something else. Until the
360 controller,
the original, what was it, 6-axis PS3 controller was, it was very uncomfortable to use. They didn't tend to use the triggers much. The triggers were awful. They're more buttons than triggers, and if I think on the 360. Microsoft got 90% of it right, and the two things were wrong was obviously the red ring of death at the beginning, and then secondly, and also the red ring. But I believe that they did a good job with giving people 3-year warranties, replacing every machine that went wrong, and then
it basically survived. It pretty much survived fairly unscathed. Which is a testament just to the games that it had and like the quality of the console itself. And people were quite happy to get to their 4th and 5th Xbox 360 because Microsoft basically ate the cost of repairing it and shipping it. And I never personally experienced the having to do that. Stu, if you were saying that you had a red ring that you had to deal with, did you have to send it off? You went through the whole...
I sent it off and then got another machine back from Frankfurt. They always came back from Frankfurt. That's all I remember. So there must be somewhere in Frankfurt. There's millions of dead Xboxes. But it was you'd hear stories about people putting towels over them, sort of reballing all the solder or whatever. Stick them in the oven. Do this, do that, and it's. I mean, it was it was a real mistake that they made, and even since then, I don't think I've ever heard of any other product that's been recalled so much as Xbox 360s.
No, I mean, I think by the time the Elite came out in 2007, which I think was really a console that was made to address, like they had a new motherboard, which basically I think resolved the issues. They wanted a bit more parity with the PS3 because the PS3 obviously came with a much bigger hard drive by default. It had HDMI built in. So with the Elite, they obviously put quite a big hard drive on it by the standards of that time, 120 gig, and then they put the HDMI in there. So that kind of even the feel, didn't it, really, with the PS3 when we got to 2007 and the Elite came out. And I think from that point, from 2007 onwards, I don't think there was any major issues. We got the Slim, obviously, in 2010, which is a big upgrade, wasn't it? It was made a fair bit smaller and didn't have the fun little light. Well, you did have the fun little lights on the disc on the middle. Obviously, being able to stand it upright and lay it flat as well, which obviously you could not do with the original Xbox. And it was just smaller and sleeker. The actual design was cool, wasn't it? The
Slim?
The Slim, and well, actually both. The original looked pretty cool, but the Slim was a lot better, a lot smaller.
That was the best looking machine. I really did like that one, to be honest. And that was where it had sort of like Wi-Fi built in. It had obviously HDMI. They started coming out with. So I think the original one had a 20 gig hard drive.
It was on 20 gig or nothing. Weirdly enough, the cores didn't have one.
Exactly. You could buy a memory card, but then it's 20 gig, and that was like, oh wow, 20 gig. I can put so many games on that. That's amazing. But then in reality, it was what. They almost went up to about 500 gigabytes, didn't they? Because you could install games and so on, download games.
my blue Xbox 360 was basically the last model, and that had 500 gigabytes on it, which is the same as the Xbox One. When you think about it, we're not massively removed from 500 gigs. I mean, the next Steam machine's going to come out with 500 gigs. The weird thing was, with the hard drives, I mean, the one I had, it was 500 gig. Did end up using it up because obviously mainly with those games with gold downloads, because obviously eventually you'd get full games. But also one thing we haven't really touched upon is the marketplace. It kind of really... where now we think of like bite-sized games and also genres that died and kind of came back with the help of the Xbox marketplace. Also, the PSN network kind of followed suit as well on the PS3. But 2D art games, pixel art games, games that perhaps were things that you would normally would have only seen on like a Super Nintendo or a Mega Drive 10 years before. 15 years before, kind of made a big comeback, didn't they? And like retro compilations, and a lot of this stuff was on the marketplace for 5, 10, 15 pounds. So that was a great thing to have, like Geometry Wars and all those great sort of short form games.
Well, I remember I used to play Uno. I used to love playing Uno online.
Yeah. I think there was disc, wasn't there, as well, with a sort of a compilation of those little party. Games. I think I remember Uno being on one of those, and like Monopoly and like fun little games like that. And then ultimately it led to like the full blown retail releases having digital copies that you could buy and download. I think we were still. I think probably only a tiny proportion of people bought the digital copy versus the retail one in those days. I've got a ton of retail games on my Xbox 360 balance because I got given them through Games with Gold. I think I did buy a few when there was a sale, because they didn't have they're pretty good sales that weren't too dissimilar to Steam sales. Where full blown games would be like, let's say Assassin's Creed or Gears of War would be like £3 or something. So the same price as like a physical copy from CEX. But yeah, some of those games like Contra, Hardcore Uprising, a 2D run and gun, some incredible sort of 2D experiences that, without that marketplace wouldn't necessarily have had an avenue or a way of being. Perhaps they would have only appeared on the PC on places like Steam. But it really brought those sort of things back. I mean, did you buy a lot of those games on the 360 back in the day?
Yeah. I'm trying to think which ones.
Sega had a lot of arcade hits as well, like after.
Yeah, I bought Daytona.
Outrun 2 SP.
That was really good. Daytona. I can't really remember which ones I got on, but I used to like they had the the marketplace, and then they had the sort of the indie game.
Yeah.
And the games were like £1, like the equivalent of £1 or £2, and there was some real. I'll listen to podcasts and people will talk about the indie games that they found on there. And one of them, I think, what was it, Made with Balloons? I bought. And it was just this absolutely, in reality, it was a real waste of money. But it was just quite funny because, you just play silly games. And it was just basically a maid with, like a digitized maid with a balloon, and you just pop the balloons or something. I can't remember. Yeah. And it was, you think about it now, like, oh my God, what did I buy? But I remember it being pretty cheap. So I didn't really feel like I was taking advantage of too much. But they seem to have a little bit of, are you looking it up?
Telling my girlfriend about the Charlton thing. But yeah, no, it's funny actually because you mentioned the indie stuff. I think that got shut down like around 2013, 2014. So I think I just missed out on it, which is a shame because I've seen countless YouTube videos of here's the top 20 Xbox indie games, and I don't think do they have that now? I don't think the Xbox Series systems really have them to the same degree.
But there seem to be like on back in the day, like now on Steam, games coming out every 10 minutes. There's a new game will be released. But there on the Xbox, they seem to have, the games, there were like 2 new games came out on a Thursday every week or something like that. And they were much better with
a curated library. So you would go on there and you would buy games that you go, oh, actually, I really want that game, or everyone will get excited and go, okay, we'll all buy that one game on that week. So that was the one that came out, and it was, and I really sort of liked that way, that because it was the first time you could really get these games on a console, and it sort of got people excited about sort of the older games. I remember things like Contra came out again, and classic games, and then other games which was just more sort of just sort of smaller games, and I'm trying to think of they had a limit of something like 50 megabytes, and then they increased it to 200 megabytes. Then it was 300 megabytes. Then and then eventually they removed it, and I thought that's a really sort of good little sort of concept, and they do it now, but it's just not under the arcade banner, and it's just games just come out, and
they don't really chop them up into these individual little sort of genres anymore, do they? It's just it's just available on the store, sort of thing. Then the final thing to mention, as we gone over the hour now, that I used to quite enjoy on the Xbox 360 as well, was playing the original Xbox games. It did have backwards compatibility. It wasn't quite up there with the PS3 in terms of backwards compatibility. Only the earlier PS3 models which could do the PS1 and the PS2 to a high percentage of games being available, like the upper 90%. But the Xbox, I think you could do probably more than half of the original Xbox library, so 400, 500 games. And I do remember playing a lot of games on the Xbox 360 that were OG Xbox, and it was actually a good experience because, well, for one, you'd obviously be, in the later years when hopefully you got yourself a better TV and you could hook it in through HDMI, that would obviously look a lot sharper and a lot nicer than an original Xbox would. I think it would upscale the games to 720p as well. Yeah. So they look pretty crisp on a HD TV. And also you had a much better controller. Although you always had to sort of map those slightly awkward, black and white buttons. I think it just made them LB and RB, which tended to be what those games got mapped as anyway when they were sort of a port of a PS2 game or something. So it worked out fairly well. But that was pretty cool as well, and it was a case of you just plop the disc in, and it would either boot up because it was backwards compatible, or it would just hopefully not, but it would give you an error saying this game isn't compatible. Probably the best backwards compatibility that an Xbox has ever had. I mean, I know the Xbox One eventually got a backwards compatibility with 360, but it was quite a small proportion of games. Retail games, certainly, it was pretty small. I don't think it was anything like the half, the 50% of original Xbox games that the Xbox 360 could do. I don't think it was anything like that, 360 going to the Xbox One. So that was a pretty cool feature as well. And I think a lot of people obviously used it to play Halo and Halo 2 on the Xbox 360 before, an actual 360 Halo came out, which was a couple of years down the line. So I think it's probably what really motivated them to include backwards compatibility, was to make sure those two games could continue to be played online. So yeah, that was pretty cool as well, to play those old games that didn't get a remaster or weren't re-released or didn't have an equivalent, certainly in those earlier years. In later years, obviously you could plug in external hard drives and USB sticks, which was pretty cool. You did get the legendary HD DVD drive, which some people might have found useful, and other people it was pointless. But it was
I've got one of them, Trev. Yeah,
so have I. But they were very cheap when they were getting rid of them. So it's kind of a good deal at the end there, wasn't it? When they were selling them for 30 quid.
Yeah.
And if you didn't have a Blu-ray drive, that was an easy way to get HD films, wasn't it? Really. And then other things did you ever use you could get Sky? Sky Go was on the Xbox 360. You could watch Sky TV and YouTube and all the apps. I didn't do any of that stuff. But did you?
Yeah, no, I certainly had YouTube and bits and pieces on there, and you watch sort of TV, and I thought that was all, that was really good, where it was like the first time you were trying to get, all the different apps, and before that, I mean, you watched, I don't know, iPlayer on your laptop or on your computer. You didn't really watch it anywhere else.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
So it was good that you could sort of do that. I'm sure you could do that in the early days. They got,
I think it was a while before
that.
There wasn't much you could really do outside of playing a game, I think, for the first couple of years.
One thing we quickly need to mention, the 360 pioneered achievements.
Oh, of course, yes.
Yeah, and no one else had, and I remember people sort of, it was such a big deal, achievements. Oh, what's your gamer score? What's your gamer score? What's your gamer score? And, it was such a big deal. Oh, you're on 10,000. Oh, wow. That's it. That's really cool. And it was such you would play games differently, and you would try and how do I get more achievements? Oh, I need to, collect 1,000 coins, or I need to complete the game in under a certain amount of time, or I need to do this, I need to do that. And you would go looking for them. And that, I think that gave games a bit more longevity, because you'd be looking for this type of stuff, and then maybe going back and playing it again, and
you finish the game, and you might want to you'll finish the game, but then one day you'll be like, oh, you know what, I should go back and get those 2 achievements that I didn't get the first time around. And when perhaps before you would just move on from the game and never think about it again. I was never one to become big into achievements and spend, I've got mates that literally, I have to get the platinum trophy, and they'll just play that one game and nothing else for months. I always see, well, the 8 hours I could spend getting that platinum trophy will be that I could finish another game in that time. And that's always my rationale. But some people obviously, absolutely love that stuff. And obviously they're a completely standard feature now of any platform, apart from Nintendo, of course. But it's Nintendo, innit? They'll do their own thing.
Yeah, exactly.
As they always have. That was the Xbox 360 in its 20th birthday. I mean, I think we both feel pretty old thinking about how it was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Plenty of nostalgic stuff about people saying I can't remember. I love the fact that I got my Xbox 360 and I remember coming back from high school to play it. I got it on my 6th birthday, and I'm like, mate, I was like 23 or something when that thing came out. So I wasn't young. Well, I was younger than I am now, but I was definitely not a kid. But one of the all-time great consoles. And if you haven't played yours in a while and you've still got it, maybe dig it out, plug it in, and play some of that, as Luke Morse would say. So Stu, where can you find us on the internet?
Search Console Shock for our website, consoleshock.net. We're on YouTube, we're on all of the podcast clients, and you can find us on Twitter, and you can find us on Facebook. Search Console Shock.
Thank you very much, Stu, and thank you everybody for listening, and we'll catch you in the next one. Take care.
Take it easy. Bye-bye.